So we...
A nice and warm movie.
Yeah, after that movie, I feel like a dick if I'm going to complain about the cold weather. So we didn't go see The Martian, but I think we still did kind of see The Martian. The Martian was supposed to play at 10 o'clock. And we went back in after we saw Miami Connection, and the guy was like, yeah, there's something wrong with the movie, so it's gonna start at 10:30 and not 10. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, if you want, like, I can just, like, skip the trailers and go right to the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, that would actually time it out about normally. But I like how he just asked us that.
Yeah.
Not anybody else there.
Yeah. Look, it's your guys' call.
Look, we're big deals on the internet, okay?
Look, we're kind of a big deal, alright? You might recognize me from reviewing The Green Inferno.
In fact, from now on, whenever I'm at a movie, you can hold off on the trailer.
You'll never play in this town again if you don't. It's, you know, like, it feels nice to laugh again, because that movie just fucking drained.
Oh, we didn't see The Martian. We were sitting in there until about 10:30, honestly, and then the manager comes in and says, yeah, look, I'm sorry, like, the hard drive that the movie is on is, like, fried, and we can't fix it in time, so we're just gonna give you some free, like, tickets. So he did, and I said to him, I was like, is there anything else that started? And he goes, oh yeah, like, The Green Inferno just started, and we're just, no. And then the guy goes, yeah, I know. He's like, yeah. So we looked around at the movie times, and we're like, well, there's Everest, and then there's... And you were like, yeah, because you were like, what's The Intern? And I was like, oh, it's like De Niro, it's like comedy, and De Niro is an intern who works for Anne Hathaway. Like, let's go see the movie about people dying on Everest.
I know, right? I'm like, that sounds better. What I said was, I probably would hate both of them, but they both sound terrible, but that one sounds less terrible. Because, like, I've seen previews for The Intern. I'm like, that just sounds like terrible dad comedy. And, like, for some reason, Anne Hathaway just annoys me. And anything I see, and I'm like, let's just go to Everest.
I'd rather climb Mount Everest than watch Anne Hathaway for 90 minutes.
It wasn't a great... It feels like still, no matter which was chosen, we would have lost. Because I just feel like it was just...
I don't know, I kind of liked Everest, honestly.
Well, when we started watching it, I had a feeling it was based on a true story, and it was, and it made it worse, because it's so depressing. Because, you know people are going to die, you know it's going to be terrible, and there's no real happy ending for that, you know?
Well, for, like, the helicopter pilot who got out fine. Like.
I mean, you know, there's people that made it, obviously, but there's no real winning situation there, you know? Well,
we sat in there, and the movie had probably been on for maybe 10-15 minutes when we sat down, and so they had just started climbing the mountain, and things were, like, safe. I mean, as safe as you could get, I guess, but, like, so we sit down, and Josh Brolin is, like, on the phone with his wife, and it's Robin Wright, and they're having, like, kind of cutesy back and forth, and you just lean over to me like, we've made a horrible mistake.
I felt so bad. There was only one guy in the theater.
There was this one guy.
We were laughing and making jokes the whole time, and I'm sure he could hear us laughing. Like, it sounds like a bunch of assholes in the back. Like,
he could probably hear us laughing. The rest of it, I'd cut down it because it's a loud movie. And,
it's just nothing but wind.
Yeah, mostly it's this wind
movie.
Noises.
I'll bet it's, like, really, really cool seeing this on, like, an IMAX 3D. Like, that's probably, like, pretty fucking impressive. Like, at one point, Violet and I in Detroit were gonna go see it because there's an IMAX out there. But she didn't know if there was going to be a lot of like spinny action or anything like that in the 3D. So she went to War Room instead. And I saw, well, not that I had it anyway. I saw the Green Inferno, but but it's. See, we just saw like it was the showing that was going on at 10 o'clock, so we saw like the 2D screening of it. Lame 2D, what?
Wouldn't it be so weird? Like, you died doing something, and they make a movie years later in 3D.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Can I see the recreation of this guy's death in 3D later?
It's like I'm there watching a man die.
Yeah.
And there were times when I wasn't sure who it was who was dying.
They all had beards, so they all looked like the same guy.
Well, yeah, and like they're all winter coats, and sometimes you didn't know which ones you were cutting back to, and you just see someone fall, and you're like, which one
I
was
blinked
that?
and like I seriously just like blinked, and when I got done, a guy who was like halfway through falling, I leaned over to you like, which one was that? It's one of those movies where every character is kind of interchangeable with each other, so it's got a big cast, so they put like prominent actors in there so you can kind of tell which one is which. So like you've got John Hawkes, Jason Clarke, Jake Gyllenhaal, Sam Worthington, Josh Brolin. It's got a pretty huge cast, actually.
Keira Knightley as the wife.
Keira Knightley, Robin Wright. But also so that we can kind of tell who is who to an extent, there's a lot of scenes in the movie where normally this character probably would have had a mask on.
There are times when they're walking around with them open, and I'm like, that's not safe on Everest. It's like, you gotta see the actor's face. And,
I was kind of thinking that too, and I'm also thinking, like, even though this apparently really did happen, I was also kind of like, dude, you really shouldn't be taking your gloves off, man. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, once the storm hit in this, which is probably about halfway through the movie, I was kind of like, now, what did we learn? It's not me climbing this shit. Goddamn. I mean, there's impressive shots in this when he looks over and like there's just this horrible fucking smoke monster of a storm coming towards him. Again, it's one of those parts where I was like, this probably looks amazing in IMAX.
Well, the scope of it feels big, like because there's so many shots of this mountain, like these beautiful shots of Everest and people climbing it, and these wide shots of them, and it feels like you're dying on a mountain as you're watching it. Because it's so depressing, and all the wind, like, it brings you in there, and it is kind of miserable, but I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I mean, make no bones about it, this is a movie where the last shot in the movie is a dead person. A dead man on the top of Everest.
Yeah, and it's... Well, and because it was a true story, it makes it sadder. It's not like, you're watching like Green Inferno and you're like, meh. Well, you get out of that.
That
like,
is
they were fucking
also
idiots,
a true
whatever.
story.
Those
people from Tumblr have not been seen since. Again, what did they learn? They really shouldn't have gone to the Amazon.
The weirdest part of this movie is when that guy just started jerking off to get a clear head. Clear head while I climb this mountain. Then it got froze to his dick.
That's what that shit is.
Eli Roth came in. Pissed.
Eli Roth probably could have played the Gyllenhaal character in this movie.
That party climber, I don't know.
Party climber.
Oh, party climber.
You see, party climber sees like the dead bodies that are frozen, like, oh man, must have been some mountain party. They do have mountain parties.
Yeah, they did have a Mount Everest party at the start.
At the start, when we walked in, like about 10 minutes after we walked in, they're like, Gyllenhaal's drunk.
Yeah.
And they're drinking like guys, really. I mean, look, I've been drunk many, many times, and not even when I was in my early 20s would I wake up the next day like, I'm going to climb a mountain. Like, I could go to work the next day when I was younger, but mountain climb, no.
There were certain things that they did in it too, and I realized this was a true story, but there were a lot of things that were really cliche or telegraphed things for like to make you sad. Like, you knew what they were going to do with
Yeah,
it. Like,
there
it's
were
like,
all
oh
these-
no, the pregnant wife's at home. Is he
Yeah.
going to make it?
Dramatic
Oh, no.
shots of them looking worried.
Anytime
or
it cuts
the-
to the wives.
Yeah.
Or
Anytime.
that woman at
Or,
the station at the base of the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Like
The,
a lot of
Emily
those shots.
Watson.
Yeah.
The shot where they're taking the picture where everyone's happy. It's like, they're going to cut back to that after everyone's died. And
yeah,
I know that was a recreation of a real photo, but
Yes, but
you
even
knew why
in,
they were
like,
doing it.
I know exactly what's going to happen when they take that photo. The movie The Descent is going to happen. At the end, it's going to cut to the photo again after cave monsters have eaten them. I wasn't like... I got the trailer for this quite a bit, but when it was like the first half and not much had really happened, I was kind of sitting there like, is this just a movie where they just kind of climb the mountain and then climb back down, and like the gimmick of it is 3D and IMAX and
No,
everything?
I knew they were going to die. I knew.
I mean, I was kind of like expecting like, well, okay, not that I literally expected this to happen, but like as it was going is kind of how I've seen in some movies like this where one of them's going to turn out to be a serial killer. Or like, like any minute now I'm waiting for the disaster movie to happen. And it does. It just takes it till they get to the top of the mountain.
I was waiting for Jason to show up. So.
Exactly.
I was surprised when they made it to the top when they did, because I guess I wasn't thinking about, it's probably on the way down where the things go wrong. I was thinking like, oh, they don't make it to the top because all this stuff happens. And then it's like they're at the top. I'm like, what, already?
Getting to the top was only the beginning. I knew they were going to make it to the top because there's a part in the trailer where he touches the top of it. And then when I kept cracking up at the worst parts because you kept leaning over to me and saying stuff. like the part where I think they're talking to Emily Watson or something, and one was like, oh, but what about the article he's writing on Everest? And you leaned over to me like, the stakes have never been lower.
Is that article going to come out or not? We were making horrible
They're
jokes.
trying to like make with the drama in the movie, like that was like a point of tension or something. It's like, what? Is that what we're supposed to care about? An article?
I really wish we had the context of the first 10 minutes of this movie.
Oh no, if they don't make it to the top, this article will be terrible.
To be fair, at this point we didn't know it was a true story.
No, honestly, I didn't until the end of it.
Maybe it was, but we didn't know for sure.
I
I was leaning over making jokes like, what killed the dinosaurs? The ice age.
Well, don't you all feel terrible?
Yeah.
I knew it was a true story, which is why I was shaking my finger the whole time.
I'm sure that guy at the other guy in the theater probably knew. And probably like, what a bunch of assholes.
I honestly didn't know because I don't know, but like watching the movie, I was like, I feel like this is maybe a common thing with Everest. Like people just die on it.
Yeah, because it could be a true story. It could be something very similar to true stories because that's just Everest. I mean, people die on it a lot.
I mean, we don't know how true of a true story it is either, because I mean, obviously they don't know exactly what anyone said up on there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's like, I don't know.
That was pretty like when Brolin is all like frostbitten and shit, like that was pretty effective. That was actually more disturbing than anything in the Green Inferno. Like his hands are all like puffy and black and shit in there.
Yeah, that was pretty gruesome to watch. Like when he started getting up, I almost expected them to snap off. Even though I know that's not how it works. Like it was.
I had my hands freeze, like not to that degree, obviously, but I couldn't feel them, and that was one of the worst feelings ever. Was when I got the feeling back.
And it like even like a really minor more minor than something like that, like it when you do kind of feel it again and then your hands just feel like fire, like it just feels like your hands are just fucking on fire. That happened to me. I I don't know, my dumbass self was walking around somewhere I shouldn't have been without gloves if that happened. Oh, it was the time I was on Everest. I made it 100 feet and went back.
You were part of that party. You didn't even remember that it was a true story.
Well, yeah, Doug and Rob were there.
I like
two of the
that
main
part of
characters
this
are-
movie was that Doug did something stupid and Rob had to deal with it.
Oh no!
It's two of the main characters are named Doug and Rob, and I thought I heard them say that, but then when like
I like when they're at the part where they go, oh well, Doug didn't make it, but Rob's coming down, and you just start laughing. Yeah, I know why you're laughing.
that was when I first heard both of the names were
Yeah.
that clearly and together.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
I wasn't even thinking of that till now. Honestly,
oh really?
It does make it funny.
Oh yeah, like I kept cracking up when that happened. I was like, wow, they never. Now I know how it ends. They're both alive.
Yeah.
Like they never
just
told me
kept
about the time they
saying
cut
Doug and
it.
Rob.
They did. There's like a 30-minute section in this movie where it is just them screaming out each other's name. But like once the storm hits and like gets disaster movie and whatnot, I actually was pretty entertained by it, but I mean the movie is a stone cold bummer. Like it is one of those movies where you pretty much know from the fucking title whether or not it's gonna be your cup of tea or not. You know,
That's why I kind of knew. Like, I'm like, I probably won't like either one of these, but I guess this one because I knew it's not my type of movie at all because it's just too depressing.
Yeah.
it is a depressing
Too
movie.
bleak.
Like
And then
I like
you
survival
can't-
movies, but not really based on a true story. Survival,
Yeah,
because
not
those
so
ones are
much.
very rarely gonna have a very good ending.
Yeah. Like, I don't particularly want to see an embellished Hollywood version of what happened to some real people, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be hilarious, like Pain and Gains.
Well, if it's done really badly, yeah, I guess.
No, that movie was great. Done badly is like fucking Wired, the movie. Is that
Oh.
a fox?
What?
There's like a fox or something
Oh,
over there.
Is it?
Awesome. Damn.
That's cooler
Ju-
than Everest.
Just like Everest.
Yeah, wow,
like
that's cool.
like Wired, the movie about John Belushi, where it's
That's true.
about his
Oh, God.
fucking ghost and shit, playing pinball for his soul.
fuck sakes.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of that is very true, though.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna guess it probably wasn't based on a true story.
Well, not even the parts that were like they couldn't get the rights to use actual Saturday Night Live sketches, so they had to make their own. Like
Yeah.
there's Samurai Baseball. Okay, I don't remember that.
Classic.
Oh man, when they do like a Julie Sweeney movie, they're gonna have to make up their own It's Pat sketches. But so you guys would you guys recommend this at all?
No.
I actually would. Well,
Yeah.
if granted, going into it, like I did sit down, like, okay, I've really got to think about this objectively because like we're like 10 minutes late into coming here. We just saw Miami Connection. We thought we were seeing one movie, and at the last minute we're seeing this. So like, okay, I kind of got to just look at this, and maybe not necessarily for the mood I'm in now, but just objectively speaking. And if this looks like something that the kind of movie you'd enjoy,
Yeah.
you'll like it.
I mean, it
You'll
looks
like it.
gorgeous. Like, I can't say it's a badly done movie at all.
Not at
It's just
all.
like,
Nah.
if I knew the taste of the person, like, if I knew that they would like that type of movie, I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
But it's not something I'd be like, go out and see. I really love it.
If
As
I
long
was-
as you're in the mood, I guess, for something bleak.
Yeah, it's very bleak.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a very bright movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a
Brightly
dark
bleak.
looking film.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Black Rage. Oh, imagine if this was made like in the 70s, like a low budget, grainy ass looking. Like
You would not
Hey,
have made it 5 minutes into that
Oh.
before. I'd be like, no.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what that movie would look like because the guy who did Rene Cardona, or Junior, who did, or maybe it was Senior, one of the Cardonas did a movie about the sports team that got trapped on the mountains, and it was called Survive! Exclamation point. And they really amped up the cannibalism in it too. It's from the They also directed.
Wait, this was based on a true story?
Yeah.
And there was cannibalism?
Yeah, because
Did that really happen?
Yeah, you remember the movie Alive with Ethan Hawke, where they're like that. It's from like the early '90s, where they're that soccer team, I believe, and their plane crashes like in the Alps, I think, and they have to. At one point, they have to resort to cannibalism.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear about that. There's some history for you.
Well, in sometime in the '70s, one of the Cardonas did a movie like I don't know if it was about the same thing, but it was. Maybe,
it was based around it, even if it wasn't officially called that.
This was the same director of Guyana Cult of the Damned, the James Johnson, Jim Jones movie.
So it was tasteful, you're saying?
It was absolutely in that they're eating people in it, and it looked delicious. Certainly. I mean, you know it's going to be very tasteful, and there's literally an exclamation point in the title. Yeah. Survive!
A shocking cannibal? David Dakota's.
I felt
survive.
Yeah, thank God we can get Bigfoot Island 2.
1313 Everest.
Oh God!
Okay. How would they get all the shirtless showering scenes on Everest?
That just reminded me. Oh, go ahead.
That's one of the things I leaned over to Phelan. I'm like, this isn't a very sexy movie.
I heard you say something sexy, and I was like, what?
Where's the shirtless scenes and the cleavage?
They could have just invented that there's hot springs up
Yeah.
there.
And then a volcano shoots
Yeah.
well, at least now they'll be warmer. Did you ever see that video of, it was a guy being interviewed on the news, and he was like, the first blind man to make it to the top of Everest.
Oh, wow.
And this, it's the dude is standing there with his friend or somebody. I don't know if they were in front of the mountains, but it looked like they were. I don't know if it was a fake backdrop, but the lady on the news is teasing the next segment. And she's like, we're going to talk to a man who climbed Mount Everest, but... And she meant to say, but he's blind, but she accidentally said, but he's gay. And then she instantly corrects herself, like, I mean, blind. And then there's a separate video that's showing, like, the camera on that guy as this is happening, and he just starts losing it, like, he starts cracking up. And then his friend who's with him is like, oh, say.
That's amazing. Why didn't they do the movie about that?
The blind guy who climbed it? Yeah. Probably because it didn't end depressing.
Yeah.
Just about the news segment, not even about his journey onto Everest. What's the fallout from this?
A friend of mine, the best Everest movie I ever saw was when I was in high school. This dude I went to high school with, I hadn't seen him in years, but his name was Chris Paoni, and he did it's for one of the classes he did this short that was just called Everest, that was supposed to be him and his friends climbing Mount Everest, but it was just them, like, in the snow with the camera tilted sideways and going, you can see a barn in the background. It just looks like it's sticking out the side of Everest. And then it was great when one of them fell, too, because it was just rolled backwards, like, ah! And then it cuts to, like, a shot of Everest, and it started playing Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones. It was like 5 minutes long and not nearly as bleak as this movie.
Yeah, if they'd aired that in the theater.
I guess technically both versions ended with a guy dying at the end.
Lots of laughs here.
Yeah.
This was a mountain full
if you
of
want to
laughs.
laugh, go see Everest.
At first, when we walked in...
killed me at the very end when he goes, Everest is on the FBI's top wanted list.
Well, they were showing, like, what became of certain characters. And they're like, yeah, Everest is still on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. I already felt like an asshole during that scene, so I was kind of like, all right, might as well make a joke. I already feel like a dick. Yeah. The reason why I felt like an ass is because there were only a couple of characters in this movie where I knew their names. Mm-hmm. So when it was showing the real people at the end, I wasn't 1,000% sure which one was which, except for the few whose names I remembered.
I remember Doug and Rob and Beck.
Yeah.
That's about it. Really.
And well, that was easy enough in the ending credits because it was showing his like.
Yeah, we could tell who
wounds.
he was. Yeah.
And I think I know which one was Gyllenhaal because there was a guy there who looked a little like Gyllenhaal looked in the movie.
They're not terribly accurate to the real people's appearances outside of having facial hair. Especially, like, the Keira Knightley wife. Like, I'm like, they mentioned, like, she had a baby named Sarah, and then I was like, wait, that's the same woman? Like, nothing like Keira Knightley. Nothing against the lady, but it's more against, like, this is Hollywood. I guess this is what his wife looked like.
What the shit, Hollywood?
I can't believe that you had attractive actors in your movie. I really thought you'd have more.
Yeah,
But
so
you have-
that
wasn't
Rob
ugly, but
guy
she wasn't
didn't look
Keira
the
Knightley,
same
yeah.
at all either. Like,
Yeah.
just,
No.
like he had a beard. That's the only
Yeah, I mean, like, I
similarity.
don't think any of them looked anything like
Yeah.
the people that they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that like, yeah. I mean, it probably would. Since there are so many characters in this, and there's really only a couple that we kind of know their names through it honestly, I mean, it probably would have helped if there was like a side-by-side thing at the end where this is the real person, here's the person in the movie, or something like that.
It helped, the color of the jackets helped sometimes, but some of them had the same color jackets.
Yeah, there was like blue and there was yellow.
Yeah.
I still don't know who one dude was who fell off the side of the mountain. Like, I know John Hawkes did, like, he was the first one to fall, but then later on when another guy did, I thought it was one guy, but then the other guy showed up later, so either I'm thinking of somebody different or that guy's fine.
And there was, he was the guy that came back for the Rob guy with the oxygen when it froze up, and then they waited together in the storm, and I don't know if I ever knew his name, but he was the other guy that came back for him.
And I kept getting, like, whenever they tripped at one point, and then there's like 10 of them that are sliding down the thing. Like, normally I'd be like, oh man, this is intense. But right next to me, as soon as that happens, you're next to me.
I didn't think I was that loud.
It wasn't that loud. Literally knee slapping.
Yeah.
I just, the movie made me feel bad. Us laughing at it made me feel bad.
Yeah.
Just bad vibes. Oh,
Well, just think about Miami Connection now. That's gonna sound
the
random.
decapitations were a lot funnier.
Well, they
Yeah,
were.
a lot more funny deaths.
It's
in
more
Miami
fun to
Connection.
laugh at something that doesn't have some real life thing attached.
Oh, that
to it.
happened in real life.
Yeah.
Miami
World peace is a
Connection
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why K. Kim, he knows what happened.
Now, if it was ninjas climbing Mount Everest,
Ninjas on Everest. Let's do it.
yeah.
That'll be the next movie.
We'll just separate though. We're laughing at the movie, not what really happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's just be clear here. Like, it is very sad what happened in real life. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the movie that we're laughing at.
Yes.
Like, I mean, like they're making a shit ton of money now on this real life thing, so whatever.
So this will be on Riff Tracks next year.
Yeah. Well, I was
Tracks
wondering where
Everest?
the
Oh,
riff
no.
tracks was. It's like if one needed riffing, lightening up, it could have been this.
That's why we're
one.
making all the jokes. It's the only way to cope through it.
Yeah,
It's like,
pretty
oh
much.
gosh,
No,
so
I-
depressing.
if I had watched this movie under like a regular movie going experience, I mean, and not like I have to see it at the last minute, 10 minutes in after seeing a Riff Tracks, I can tell what I would have thought of it. And honestly, even sitting here, I'm like, no, it was good. I thought it was a really good movie, but I was in a slightly different frame of mind than you probably should be when you're watching a movie.
That's
like
why we were
this.
riffing
Yeah.
it. We just came from a riff, so we're like, all right, let's do it.
Fuck. So at some point I'll see The Martian. I've got free tickets to go see it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Everest?
I think, like, honestly, it is a good movie, but it's just not my cup of tea at all. So, I mean, like, you know, if that's your genre of movie, it is a well-made movie of that genre.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I did think it was a really good movie. Like once the storm hits, it's seeing this in 3D and on a big IMAX is probably really cool. If this movie is your cup of tea, then it would be then it's absolutely worth seeing in the theater. If not, you probably won't like it no matter how you watch it. But like I would say like. And Netflix it as opposed to paying a full price to go see it in the theater. But no, for as a mountain survival movie, it's pretty good.
Friends to eternity, loyalty, honesty, stick together through thick or thin.
On Everest.